Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Healthy Entrepreneur Show. I am so excited to be doing this show tonight because I have a wonderful guest. Her name is Keishia Facey, and Keishia is the owner of Riddim Fitness located in Ajax. And Keishia, I wanted to have you here on the show specifically because of with this pandemic and people having to shift and pivot
Yeah.
and being a business owner, managing our health and our well-being, our mental health specifically, and just get to talk to you being a local business owner. I'm sure there's a lot of people on here who are local business owners who may want to hear, how you manage to pivot and shift and manage this whole thing. So I'm really excited to have you. And before I introduce you to our audience, I want to introduce myself. My name is Maxine Choy. I am a health and nutrition coach, and I work with women to help them achieve sustainable health goals and fitness goals by simply simplifying ways in which that you can enhance, um, I guess, your strength and your ability to take charge of your life. So I'm very passionate about that, and this show falls in line with everything I believe in, and that is just take care of ourself, basically our physical, mental, spiritual, financial, all the areas in life that's going to keep us balanced. So the Healthy Entrepreneur Show is created so that entrepreneurs like yourself and myself and everybody else who's watching can get a feel of how we go through whatever we have to go through just to get through handling a business and managing our health and well-being. So tonight's show, we're going to talk about how you have pivoted and shifted, and I'm going to stop talking and introduce you to the audience. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Maxine. I'm so happy to
Welcome.
be here, and I look
Great.
forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to get started because some people are wondering, Riddim Fitness. I love that name, by the way. I love it.
Okay.
Um, because it sounds like dancing, fitness, that type of thing. And what I wanted to ask you was this: the first time that the lockdown came,
Mhm.
right? You knew that meant nobody was coming into the studio for a while, so your business had to close.
Yeah.
How did that affect you mentally? In like, what kind of emotions were going through your mind during that time?
That time it was a lot of fear, right? The not knowing, not being sure as to how long it was going to last. I remember I would ask people, "How long do you think this is going to be? How long do you think it would take?" And it's like you're not even capable of thinking about the magnitude of what the pandemic. Like we couldn't have known like how long that it would be 10 months later that we'd be in the same situation. So it was like, do you think it'll be a couple weeks? Do you think it'll be a couple months? Because it actually stopped all of my businesses altogether, right? So we have the physical location here where we have programs that we run. So all of those had to stop. And prior to COVID, we weren't online, so everything was done in house, right on scene. So yeah, definitely a lot of fear, a lot of panic, a lot of anxiety, um, an overwhelming amount of stress. But there was a lot of people around me that would reassure me to say, like, we're not alone. We're not the only business people that are going to be impacted by this, and there's really nothing we can do. It's completely out of our hands. The only thing is, what do we do in terms of the people that we know will want to stay connected with us? How are we going to keep those connections going?
Absolutely. That's the first thing you want to think of is your clients, right? You want to make sure that you stay connected with them because they're probably going through some emotions as well. They fear they may not be able to do this ever again. And if there's children involved with this program, I'm sure you taught classes with kids and you had all kinds of kids programs. So yeah, definitely that was a good idea to keep in contact with your clients. There's entrepreneurs who are watching right now who probably had a similar business like yours, or even like a service-based business who knew that nobody's going to come into their doors now because that's what they rely on is the physical person to come and walk through the doors. That's what pays the bills.
Right.
So when you went through that and the fear came over, what was the first thing that you did? What advice what can you reflect on, I should say, that
You mean
you did?
besides the crying and the and the panic and all of those things and the not knowing and the um, I think the first action that was taken, I think we quickly pivoted to online prior to, as I mentioned before, we weren't online. So it was like, okay, how quickly can we get online? What do I have to get? Zoom account? How much is it going to cost? How am I going to work this? How's the sound going to be? It was just this entire frenzied state of trying to figure out how do we keep things going. And I knew
Right.
I wasn't alone. And I had another person that works in the fitness industry, Donna Mensa, and she, called me knowing that I'd probably be in that frenzied state. And she was really supportive in terms of making sure like we could get the sound going and that, to stay
Right.
connected with people. So,
Right.
yeah.
Because prior to that, you were not. You said you were against online. Now, with COVID, you had to be forced to learn to go online, right?
Yeah, I in a previous conversation, I had mentioned that, yeah, I have no interest in going online. Although you could sense that that was the direction that a lot of the fitness industry was going in, I was very reluctant to go online because for me, the way that our studio is built, the way our program is built, is really about community. It's about community building. It's about being able to touch and know that we're here and a collective and spaces to gather. So for me to fathom being able to do that virtually wasn't something that I was able to do, right? So I was really eager to hope this was going to pass so we could get back to the business of just, in-person classes.
Right. So with the fear that you were going through, were you worried that your doors would shut down and you'd never open again?
For sure. For
Mm,
sure. For
right.
sure. Especially it's dance, it's fitness, right? Like, so it's falling into all of those areas where it's like, it's also people use the space. So I had other businesses that were using for their programs. We had
Mhm.
martial arts classes, yoga classes. So it's not just my own businesses, it's the business of people that also use the space. It's like everything just stopped. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I saw that some Makisha said hi. Hi, Makisha. I didn't want to forget. Hey, Makisha. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate this. Just for anybody who's watching this show, please, if you can, like and share this podcast. We appreciate it. We want to reach as much audience as we can because we really want to talk about how this pandemic has impacted businesses, specifically when you have your doors that when you need people to come into your business, right? So the journey, your journey. So prior to COVID, prior to your doors closing down, do you think that if you were better prepared for this type of thing, it wouldn't have been so impactful? Like, did you feel that you weren't prepared enough? And
I mean, that's a really good question. They say like opportunity meets preparation, or that expression where it talks about the right time, essentially. Hey, Deborah, and the right time for when it is that you should actually do something. I wasn't prepared, and I wasn't thinking in terms of this. I couldn't have fathomed it, right? So there was no. I don't know. It's possible that maybe if I had been more prepared, we could have pivoted more quickly. But I believe that for us, it was about a week. It took us about a week from when everything was shut down to when we were online. So there wasn't a lot of time in between.
exactly.
Familiar with like Zoom and whatever platform we were planning to use. So
Right.
yeah.
Did you ever feel like giving up while you were doing in that transition? Did you
Oh,
feel? Pardon?
absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely. Because when you go to, if you're like a people person in some ways, like you're an extrovert, to going to just virtual where you're not able to interact with people and it's just through a screen is difficult. So you have to go through that whole emotional process of, is this how things are going to be? This is not sustainable. Like I heard you talking about things being sustainable. Like initially right off the bat, I was like, this is not going to be sustainable. It's not going to
right.
work. So I had a lot of negative thoughts around whether or not it could be successful, but I just kind of continued to push forward in spite of the negative thoughts, right?
Right. Because I would assume that you may have been thinking that you'd be losing your customers. That's your clients. That
Oh,
would
yeah,
be that was your biggest fear,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
Right. And did you think that were they receptive to the online or
Yeah. I mean, there's a segment of folks that aren't like, they're there and they're in support of, and they're, trying to be supportive of the program and so forth. But then there's some people who really do enjoy being online and they talk about how it's perfect. And in that time, since we've opened back up, they've not necessarily come back in studio. They've stayed online for a variety of reasons. Like if you have people that you're looking after that might have an illness, or if you've got like elderly people that are living in your home, or you've got young children, and it's a little bit more difficult to balance getting out and coming to the studio, and then you have to consider different factors in terms of exposure and these things. So yeah, so there's some people who've remained online who do like it. Yeah.
Right. So, in terms of your mental health,
Mm,
and we're going to get personal for a minute,
sure.
because I know that there are a lot of people who say, "Oh, I'm okay," sure, my business is not doing so well, but I'm okay. But
Hmm.
but they're not okay, because it's not necessarily that they're not okay that it's not doing well now. It's more so, what's in it? What's my future going to look like? Do I, I'm losing my momentum. I'm losing all that drive. So there may be a little bit skeptical about what the future will look like. So you said you had to dig deep into resources, dig deep into, just to get to manage the
Yeah.
situation. So what did you have to do?
Well, like in addition to the work that we do here at the studio in terms of the fitness and it's really a wellness center, right? And the reason why the wellness center part is a part of it, because we know it's about that mind body balance. All of it is connected, right? In terms of
Right.
and just all of those things. So my background actually is in mental health. So as a mental health practitioner for years, um, you gather a lot of tools as you're going, different ways of being able to cope with the things that life throws at you. And when
Right.
the pandemic started, I was mentioning to you that it was a matter of, I knew that I had the tools that, at first I was like, okay, when you have the resources in terms of people around you,
Right.
when you talk about breathing and meditating and those types of things that
Yes.
really can, assist you to get through the tough times. This time it wasn't, it was a lot more difficult, right? Like it wasn't enough to just say, go with the tools that I knew based on my knowledge and awareness around mental health and around wellness. Like I really felt it was important for me to tap into the resources of people who even had more knowledge about mental health and more knowledge
Absolutely.
about the brain,
Abs-
more knowledge about coping and anxiety and stress and trauma and all of those things. So in doing that, being able to connect with other, professionals, I think has been really supportive and really amazing. Yeah, really eye opening.
so you had to tap into getting professional help just to help you to deal with certain aspects of it, right?
Yeah, like I'm a big proponent of that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people will come to me for certain levels of emotional support, but it's important for those that are also providing the support to have somewhere to go, to have someone to talk to that you can just be completely open and honest and transparent with around whatever it is that you're facing. Because
Absolutely.
mental health is no different than physical health, right? It's something that requires, work. It's something that
Absolutely.
you have to check. It's something that you have to be able to be honest and acknowledge, okay, right now I'm not doing well. And considering the circumstances of the pandemic, considering the circumstances of being a business owner, all of those factors, um, just being real and saying, it'd be good to be able to talk to somebody else other than, having to offload on family or friends. Sometimes it's really good to seek out professional support in that way.
No,
Yeah.
I totally agree with that, because we sometimes think that we can get through it by talking to our friend or a neighbor, but when you get somebody professional who's not is unbiased, right? Then it helps you to get through it, and
Mhm.
it can be tough. And I know, I mean, now we've got businesses that are closing their doors permanently, not even just temporarily, but they're closing permanently. And this is their livelihood, it's what they've been doing for years, and probably don't really have a plan B. Or even if they have a plan B, it's probably not going to pick up, because the plan B may have been something to do with having people. Keishia is saying something, mental health is no different than physical health. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, maybe plan B does not include virtual. So do you think a plan B is something that you should have, or have you implemented that? And what can you tell anybody else who may be in a service-based industry like yourself?
Yeah, it's always good to, I mean, it's difficult, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you wanna go, like, all in on your dreams and your goals. You're not always thinking plan B, right? You wanna invest fully because, you're just gonna give it your all because this is your
Right.
life and you're following just your dreams, right? Your aspirations,
Absolutely.
and you're doing it unapologetically. So to have a plan B is almost like, are you really fully diving in 100% to that dream or goal? So sometimes the plan Bs just kind of end up happening as a result of the circumstances. So for our program, for me, it definitely has been shifting to an online platform, and we've been able to maintain the program in that way. And in addition, like expand. Prior to that, we didn't have people taking the classes from Saskatchewan, from Alberta, from different places across the province, from Florida and from Jamaica. We just didn't have that. So now we do have that. So it's like we've been able to expand our reach. So yeah.
That's a classic case of when unfortunate things happen, it opens up doors for so many other possibilities, because you were just local in Ajax, but now you're more, you're like international now. You're in Jamaica, you're doing classes in Jamaica virtually, and that's amazing. So that, going forward, you must be thinking, wait a minute here. I've got a little thing happening here with my studio, and I've got online. So, it's a good time now for even anybody who's watching now to think about, how can I make my business go online? And even after COVID, because I'm sure doors are going to open back up. I'm very optimistic that they will. Right? It's going to be different, but it will open back up. But you can still benefit if you're smart enough. Start planning how you're going to do this virtually. Right? I like that. I like the fact that it has allowed you to, of course you pivoted, but you saw the rewards, you saw the benefit. Right? That's amazing.
I don't want to take all of this. Sorry, Maxine. I don't want to take all of it. Like, although, as the director of the program, it's like, I'm here to ensure that we execute on a lot of things, but I do have a great support network of people around me that when I'm saying I refuse to go online, they're like, no, you really need to, like, you have to go. I have no choice. Like, this is something that is going to have to happen. So it's also about having the right people around you, right? Because sometimes people can be very negative and they can detract you away from whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish or trying to do. So it's important to have those positive people with good intentions.
Yeah, that's a very good advice, and something that is very important, because they can support you and help you to create that, right? Because they probably have more insight, they probably have more experience, and you just need to listen to them and have them guide you through it. And I'm just glad that you're still able to maintain and not give up, right? Because as a Black business owner, and I don't like to play the victim, but it's different for us. We have certain challenges, that come upon us, and depending on where we are demographically, you could soar or you may not, right? So with this pandemic and this lockdown, it feels as if like it's like a pushback again, right? Like here you are progressing, and all of a sudden you have to be faced with this challenge, right? So it's so good to hear that this whole pandemic is probably bringing on something positive for you. It feels that way.
Yeah, I mean, initially when it started, things were really picking up in terms of our studio, in terms of people using the space. It's like a multi-purpose space as well, right? So we had a lot of people using it for their own personal private events. We had some really great renters that have been consistently with us for a while. Plus we had our children's program, adult program, and the seniors program. So there was like a lot of activity happening. And then outside of that, I was also doing the work in terms of equity and inclusion and doing a lot of training in person. So when everything stopped. So definitely to think, fast forward 10 months to know that, we were able to continue going. Our doors are still open, technically, like we're still here hoping to, greet our folks when they come back. That other forms of business interests that I have been able to kind of continue. It's been a blessing, right? Like I recognize how fortunate that we've been, right? There's a great deal of gratitude in that.
Right. Have other entrepreneurs in the same industry or similar industry reached out to you? Or have you helped anyone?
Yeah, I mean, like there's been moments, like I had mentioned, another fitness instructor that I quite admire, like stepping up to be like, this is something you need to make sure and do, and providing support in that way. Yeah, there on occasion people will like, how did you do that? How do you find that? That comes up a lot. Like, how do you find the virtual platform versus the in-person? So yeah, people will ask for opinions, but until you kind of dive in and just do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to it, I was against it. I was not feeling it. I was not about it in any way, shape, or form. So then to turn around and it be okay, it's good.
Right. Okay. So how do you think that this whole thing has affected your health? Do you think it? So I'll be specific. Are you finding that you're still taking care of yourself, or maybe you're not, or are you?
it's changed, right? Like over the course of the 10 months, it changes. I'm always trying to adjust. Whereas prior to, it's like I had a nice routine and I had a nice pattern and I had a nice, it was good. I was in a good space in terms of managing both mental health, physical health, just overall.
Right.
But I find this does require a lot more intention. It can be
Mm.
way more intentional in terms of your wellness in the course of the pandemic, in terms of what you're eating,
Yeah,
of,
absolutely.
who you're. Mhm.
I'm just trying to read Banky's comment. Sorry. Cherie says, it's good to have a good support system, specifically, sorry, especially, I can barely read that, the fine print, especially when you need to find a way to pivot. Absolutely.
Yep.
Definitely helped you, because imagine if you're by yourself. Thank you, Cherise. That's so important, because if you're by yourself or you didn't have a good support system, you probably would have given up.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like, you have to, like, nurture those relationships, right? Like, I had a friend that came in and really stepped up in terms of social media. Kai Publishing did a lot of work in terms of, "You've got this," and always kind of encouraging,
Right.
friend that does music and sound has resolved and works for our program as well, DJ Wise Guy, like, resolves all the sound issues, which is in and of itself a whole other feat, right? When you're talking
Right.
about online platforms. So yeah, definitely having a good support system of people around you and that understand your business and understand you is key. Yeah.
Right. Um, so in terms of an entrepreneur, like I said, who's in this position right now
Mhm.
and thinking about, I'm meaning to close my doors, what can you say to them?
That they may need to close their doors.
Hmm.
Mm. At first, I would make sure to ensure that all government options in terms of funding and support has been tapped out in every way, shape, or form, because there are a lot of grants and available funding out there.
Right.
If you're able to navigate those systems, you may be able to get access. So there's that. Um, it's hard to say wait it out because the costs are tremendous,
Absolutely.
and
Right.
I've had to rely on, not only just pivoting in terms of online, but I've had to rely on other, um, streams of, like, income in terms of the work that I do, right? Like, other aspects of my interests have had to take more of a front seat, right? Whereas before they were kind of even keeled, there's been other aspects that have had to really move forward, right? Like in terms of equity and inclusion and training anti-Black racism. And it just so happened to be at the exact same time as there was more of a spotlight placed on, anti-Black racism. So it's like in that way, I've been able to balance. Um, but for folks that have like a single stream income and are really focused on, you know, um, one thing I can imagine, I can only, speak into how difficult that would be, that decision to have to close your business, because we all sacrifice so much to have our businesses and we all know there's a risk involved. But when it's something that's so out of your control, it's not your mismanagement of funds, it's not
Right.
for lack of effort, it's completely out of your control.
Absolutely.
It's difficult. For sure.
Absolutely. I can only imagine.
Mm.
So what do you do each day just to manage your health and wellness, your health and well-being and all that? What do you
Um,
do?
I mean, obviously, like, prayer is key and meditating is key. Having the right people around you is key. I know I keep saying that, but it's to me
No,
very important, having
it
the
is
right
key.
support circle,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
people you can be vulnerable with, right? Where you don't have to necessarily keep any
I
guard.
love that. That
Yeah.
is so true. Having someone you can be vulnerable with. And this is you I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to cut you, but that
No.
hits a chord with me, because this is when you become an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
right? You've got a lot of people who are looking to see, like, looking at what you're doing.
Yeah.
They've come to support you. You're putting your business out there, and you're public.
Hmm.
So if your doors are closed, they can see it. If it's open, they can see it. If you're not present on social media, they think something's happening. And worst case, if you're not doing well, how do you even face the ultimate,
Hmm.
guys? I'm suffering. That's there's a lot of pride. There's a lot of, I don't know what you want to call it. Maybe not shame. That's not a good word, but disappointment. Or you feel you may disappoint people. And you said it right. Having someone you can be vulnerable with, whether it's a pandemic or not, right? But in this case, absolutely, there are people who needed to have someone that they can trust and share all the fears, all the angst, all the anxiety with during this pandemic. Whether you had a, a, brick and mortar
Mm-hmm.
or online,
Yeah.
right? Because everybody was affected in some way. So absolutely, it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
So important. James says, powerful conversations. Thank you so much, James. There was another comment that came up. If the producer can just bring it up again. Oh, Jamie Lee says, it is so true. Having a support system is important, and being a support system to others. Absolutely. You know, I love that. But just having somebody who you can share everything that you're going through with. That, and when you said you had to dig deep, you had to tap into some of your resources. You said you seek professional help. You did a lot of meditating and praying. And I think I told you before that for me, what helped me through any of my adversities I've been through is my breath work and meditation, and just turning to God, turning to the Word of God, right? I won't get religious on here, but you just need to have a grounding,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to have a foundation. You have to have something to believe in, right?
You can't separate them, right? Like you really can't. Like
No, you can't.
you can face any form of adversity without being able to acknowledge that, number one, you're not alone, right? Whether it's through spirituality or through the people that are around you. And when I say support systems too, like it's one thing to have people you can talk to and just like express and share, but you also want to make sure you have people that can provide even some like positive suggestions or advice, or have some knowledge about how to access funding, or
Yes.
to like something that can actually really pour into you, other than just being there to receive all of your hurt and sadness.
Exactly.
Like, you need to be able to, right, like give
That's
back in some way.
that's the key. Support,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
because sometimes you have people who they may seem like they're supporting, but they're actually watching you fall
And
and
enjoying every moment of it.
enjoy every moment of it. Trust me, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely at a time like this where people were facing loss, and I know a lot of people who have been facing loss, and they have a brick and mortar, and it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And some have gone underground, some are just not, they've just basically shut down and don't know what to do. And I feel that we should form some kind of an alliance or something in our tribe to say, look, guys, we need to support each other. We need to hold each other up, and open up the doors for people to come to, like a place where you feel safe, right? I wish I can read that. Can you read that? Because I can't see.
Okay. So I went to school in 2020 to become a medical esthetician. I lost all opportunities for practical training, and now my industry is closing so many businesses. I honestly felt embarrassed, like all that effort for what? I have given it all to God. He's in control of my destiny. May I speak into that?
Absolutely. And before you do, Liberty, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And go ahead, take it away, Keishia.
Yeah, I want to kind of touch on the embarrassed part, right? Like if you went to school it, like when we talk about, was it preparation and opportunity, you went to school. Nobody can take that from you. That
Right.
education you got, it might not seem like right now is the time that you're going to actually be able to maybe cash in on that, but at some point you will be able to. So it's just important to, like, there's no shame in that, right? Like just keep focused on what it is that you wanted to accomplish prior to COVID, and see what you can do to make something happen for yourself. Because as Maxine mentioned earlier, this is not going to be forever, right? Pandemics have a beginning, they have a middle, they have an end. They always run in that same order. If you check any pandemics over the course of history, they're not like, they don't just keep going forever and ever and ever. I mean, unless you're looking at certain ones, but on certain issues, but for this type, it will have an end. So it's important for us to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. And that was some great advice. I like the way you put that. I know people who say their workplace is not even open anymore.
Yeah.
They don't have a job to go to, right? But they say, as Steve Harvey always say, and I'll end with this, is what you're going through is not happening to you, it's happening for you.
True.
Right? And Wayne Palmer says, keep moving forward. Absolutely. So I think, the takeaway from this is when things come up against you, look to have support, look to the people who support you.
Yeah.
Stay grounded, stay positive, you know, try and find, like, figure out a plan B, and just always try to evolve, because that's what life is all about. That's how the world goes around. That's how we keep going as a human, right? Imagine if everything was just like coasting, right? So thank you so much for sharing this. So one more question before we go, because we're almost out of town. I don't know what time it is. Oh, it's 7:30. Wow.
Time went fast.
It does go fast. So what's next for Riddim Fitness? The pandemic is almost over. Yay, with hope. And doors are going to open up.
I mean, I can only hope. I cannot wait to have people back in the studio, to have our kids, like our youth program back. There's so much joy that happens here. The interacting people with their, I'm looking forward to it. I'm just, every day I wake up, I'm like, I know it's going to come back again. It does really bring a great deal of happiness to my life, and I think to the lives of other people as well that are using the space. So I do look forward to that. I really do look forward to that. Yeah.
Jamie Lee Roche says, Maxine, I love your show. It's always so honest and heartfelt. Oh, thank you so much, Jamie Lee. Thank you so much. And to what you just said, I see the smile on your face when you say you can't wait back. You can't wait for the doors to open, and I can't wait for the people to come in. And that speaks to the fact that we all miss the human interaction. I used to hold events. I had a Bellas and Fellas group. I had my women's stuff that I used to do. I had a retreat, and I'm just like at home. I can't do anything, and it's very, very hard. It's hard to digest that. But I think that we have to take this time to do some mental check or pivot or something. Just really think about what it is we need to do.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's happening to us, it's happening for us, not to us.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to leave with today. Okay. Well, pardon?
No, I think that's powerful. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Keishia, we're going to put up your information here, but you can tell the audience where they can reach you. You can go right ahead. It's Riddim Fitness.
Yeah, you can reach me at Riddim Fit. That's our Instagram, or you can check us at riddimmfit.com, where we have a list of all of the different programs, and it links to the different activities that we do in the community.
Awesome. Well, Keishia, thank you so much for being on the show. I do appreciate you sharing everything with us, and I do wish you much, much success. And I'm looking forward to coming to visit you too. I can't wait.
I'm looking forward to you coming as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And I hope that some of our stories have inspired you. And if you're in a situation where you are thinking that it's the end, please stay positive. It's not forever. It'll end soon. And just stay positive. Good night, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Thanks, Keishia.
Thank you. Bye.